Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be From Divorce to Success. Well, I've got two more good success stories I wanted to share with you today. The first one is from a guy that's he's 56, and he spent, I think it was like 32 years in a marriage, had kids, and then obviously and eventually got married. They got back in the dating world. Obviously was pretty shocked by what he found, and he's doing really well now, and he takes us through how my work helped him, what he was doing wrong and what he started doing differently, and obviously the really good success that he's got now. And then the second one is from a younger guy that is, I guess he's still in university or he just finished it, so he's in his early 20s, and he obviously, like a lot of people, found my work after a girl he really liked was jerking him around and blowing him off. So with that said, I've got a quote that I wrote, and then we're going to go, after that we'll go through the first guy's email. And so the quote says, "Everyone has value they can offer to the world if they take the time to invest in and develop themselves. Everyone loves being around successful, happy people who know how to get what they want in life. Being around people who make you feel good can inspire you to become more and reach your full potential. The word lead means to go first. Successful people spend the time to learn what they don't know and to become better at things they are not very good at. What really separates the winners from the losers in life is simply being willing to be a beginner again, and most importantly, being willing to take consistent action to grow, refine, and improve on a daily basis." And what I liked, we have a good contrast here. I have somebody that's a few years older than me, and obviously got a young guy recently out of college and the college experience. And it doesn't matter whether you're young or you're old, the principles that I teach and the fundamentals that I teach in my book, How to Be a 3% Man, which you can read for free at understandingrelationships.com, work. It's timeless. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, women respond to what they respond to. And so if you do the work, because let's face it, most guys, especially when it comes to their personal lives, just have lousy strategies to achieve what they want. And that's why they're not getting the results that they want in life. And part of being successful, I should say a big part of being successful in life, is finding out what is the difference that makes the difference. What information can you apply in your own life to tweak your own approach and how you show up, so you can get, in other words, you can convince more people to go along with your agenda instead of them convincing you why they shouldn't go along with your agenda. So we're all in sales, whether we want to admit it or not. We sell ourselves to potential employers, we sell ourselves to new friends, we sell ourselves to our clients, and obviously in the relationship department, we're selling ourselves, hopefully, to that person that we want to become a significant other, and vice versa, because they're on probation too. Just because they're hot doesn't mean they automatically qualify as somebody to be in a relationship with. So with that said, let's go to the first guy's email. He says, "Hey, Coach Corey, I'm a 56-year-old male that was married for 32 years and divorced 2 years ago after both of our kids got married and left home." So obviously he was an empty nester. "Like lots of middle-aged guys, I wasn't very happy in our marriage, but felt really bad when she wanted to give up and get divorced. Part of the problems were financial, as a few financial decisions went south and the economy under Obama really kicked my ass. For a while, I really struggled with direction in my life and finding purpose. Well, part of being a man and being attractive to women is a man who knows what he wants, who knows why he wants it, and he has an action plan to make that happen, because that's the embodiment of masculine energy. Doesn't mean you have to be rich and successful or already achieve your goals, but you got to have a vision for your life, and you got to be executing on that vision with the expectation that things are eventually going to work out in your favor. In other words, you're participating in your own rescue. You're doing what a man is supposed to do. You're not sitting in the corner in the fetal position with your thumb in your mouth and crying that nothing ever works out for you. You're actually taking action to make something happen. And that's why it's so important to have your mission and your purpose in order, because as a man, if you don't have that in order and you have no direction, like I said before, you're kind of like a ship without a rudder, and that's what makes you attractive to women, especially if you're hoping to eventually settle down, have kids, and say you want your girl to be a stay-at-home mom or to run the house. She's got to feel safe and comfortable enough putting her safety, her security, her well-being in your hands and trusting your leadership. And as long as you show up and you make her feel safe and comfortable and you take care of the things that you take care of, that a man's supposed to take care of, and you act like a man consistently, she will respect you and trust in your vision and become your biggest fan and cheerleader. But if your life is a mess and you're not doing the things you know you need to do, she's going to prod you, she's going to tend to be a little bitchier, just because she doesn't feel safe and comfortable trusting in your masculine core. This is something that's really super essential. It's like a lot of people come to me and they're not even thinking about these things. Like, I need a pickup line, I need a strategy. What do I do to get the girl? It's really about developing yourself and becoming a high-value man that a high-value woman would want to be with and to follow your leadership. He says, I dated and slept with a few women and had fun, but they were not really high-value women, and I wasn't being a high-value man, if I'm honest about it. Then I stumbled across your videos on YouTube and decided to buy your book, 3% Man. I have it on my Kindle, and I read it every day, and I wish I could reach out to every middle-aged divorced guy and let them know about the book and that a reset, a restart in life is possible. Life is not over. I like what he said there, because a lot of guys that get older think, especially some guy like in his case, I mean, he's been over 3 decades in a marriage, had a family, now he's in his mid-50s, and he's divorced and he's single, and it's like, now what the hell do I do? I'm too old. Whatever limiting beliefs he's got run around his head, those are going to affect his behavior and the actions that he takes or fails to take. And if you don't know what to do and you don't have a good strategy, it's going to be really hard to move forward and feel good about yourself. Because if you don't feel good about yourself, it's going to be really hard to convince a woman to feel good about you and being with you. So it's like you got to take care of you first. Like Jim Rohn said, I'll take care of me for you, and you take care of you for me. He says, looking back, I can see that I wasn't centered and was a nice guy in my marriage that was partly responsible for our divorce. I mean, this is so common. I mean, when you think about in our society, what you see in the media, what you see in television shows and movies is the nice guy, extra accommodating, doesn't want to piss off his wife, doesn't want to piss off his girlfriend, and he goes along with whatever she wants, trying to please her and make her happy. Obviously, on TV and the movies, it works, but that's not the real world. In the real world, you got to have your shit together. Around our 25th anniversary, some shit happened in our marriage, and I did not have the courage to call bullshit on and demand that we get help. See, he knew that there was a problem, he should do something about it, but he didn't. Why? Probably because he was afraid of pissing her off. Don't want to rock the boat. Don't want to upset the missus. He says, with the help of what you teach in your book, I first worked on myself and getting my shit together to become a high-value man. While that's not a short and easy process, I owned up to my mistakes, learned from them, and have moved on. I signed up for a few internet dating sites with your advice on dating site profiles, and I have women reaching out to me. My friends can't believe it when they see me with different beautiful women all the time. I tried to explain to them the abundance mentality, but they don't get it. I've actually broken it off with several women after 3 or 4 dates because they are not high value enough for me. How many guys actually really get to experience rejecting women and turning women down? I know when that first started happening to me when I was in my early 30s, I felt guilty. I felt weird because I knew what it was like to be on the other side and getting blown off or ghosted, or I only think of you as a friend, that kind of stuff. And it can be demoralizing as hell. And for especially a guy it's older or spent several decades, It's a whole new world to be able to say, hey, you're really great, but I want to see what else is out there. I think you're great, but just something's missing. I want to stay single and keep searching. It's hard for a lot of guys to do that and stand up for themselves. But if you have choice and you have abundance, you got to decide who, just like most women are in a situation in today's day and age, they have lots of choices with guys, especially when they're on the dating sites. And so they've got to figure out and test and determine right away, or as quickly as possible, who the guys are that are high value they should spend their time with, and which guys to blow off. He says, I also learned about how women test men and can see the shit my wife did for years to test me and how I failed those tests, trying to be a good, nice husband. I'm now dating a beautiful, successful woman that is crazy about me and started pursuing me after our first meeting for drinks. She's actually a vice president of a big national company, a strong and independent woman, and tests me regularly. Isn't that great? Right as I start doing a fucking video, some asshole's out there with a blower outside my window. Well, I'm just going to have to go roll right through it. Thanks to your book, I recognize those tests and use techniques in the book to respond to each test. It seems when I pass those tests and don't just cave to her, it makes her even more crazy for me. I'm still a work in progress, and I plan to never stop learning to be a better high-value man. I just bought your other book, Mastering Yourself, and I'll start learning as soon as I finish it to pass through the 3% man. I even tell my married friends who have a shitty, no-sex marriage to buy a 3% man book because I believe it can help married guys to revive great relationships with their wives. I do a lot of phone sessions with guys that are in that kind of situation. The wife doesn't want to have sex with them. They're in marriage and couples therapy and counseling. And then you got the therapist that's just like literally begging that, please have sex with your husband. As they don't really understand attraction and how to teach that stuff to a man. And without it, if you don't know how to create attraction, you're just not going to be able to keep a girl interested. He says, thanks for all you have done to help guys get their life and relationships back on track. So let's go to the second guy's email. He says, hey Corey, I just wanted to send you an email to say, thanks bro, you're a fucking legend. I'm a 24-year-old from England currently slaying thanks to you. I have about 4 girls putting themselves in my orbit that I could invite to my house to play indoor Olympics anytime thanks to your methods. For young guys that say your methods regarding texting, etc. don't work for younger people, that's a load of shit. I've gotten quite a few comments on my YouTube channel over the years, especially the last several years, from young guys that are just learning this stuff, going, oh, Corey, you don't understand. You got to spend time texting with a girl a lot. Things are different from my generation. It's like, yeah, right. If that was really working for you, you wouldn't even be on my fucking YouTube channel right now. He says, I just wanted to share a success story that I had reading your book. I'm on my 5th read at the moment, and before I discovered your work, I met this girl at university who fucking knocked my socks off. She is so cute and feminine. I went out on a few dates, and I got a kiss or two, and basically started spewing a load of shit at her, telling her how she's the best thing I ever met, and how beautiful she is, and how I've never connected with anyone like her, etc., etc. So obviously, a lot of guys think you got to be extra nice to a girl. You got to compliment the shit out of her. You got to tell her how much you like her. And if she knows that you really, really super duper like her, she's going to like you more. Well, obviously this guy tried that, and it wasn't working for him. He says, needless to say, she started backing off big time to the point that she'd take 2 days to respond to my messages, and she became constantly busy. So why is that? I mean, why would she back off like that? Well, if you think about it from her perspective, because women are much more emotional beings, and obviously in this case, he's feeling emotions and feeling more invested in her than she is into him. And so he's starting to already act like, hey, you're going to be my girlfriend, we're going to be in a relationship. And she's probably still just trying to think, is this guy good for me? Is he a good match? Should I really be dating him? So that's why it's so important to slow your roll. And like I talk about in my book, it's letting the woman do most of the calling, texting, and pursuing, and therefore it allows the relationship to evolve at her pace as she feels safe and comfortable, and she starts to feel more attraction. She's going to want to bond and connect and move things along quicker. And that what typically happens with most guys is that they don't know any better, is they try too hard, they call too much, and especially like in this case, he's just like, he's like puking his feelings all over her, and it's turning her off because she's not at the same place emotionally that he is communicating to her. In other words, she knows that he's way more into her than she is into him. And you get, oh, I'm confused, I'm not sure. That's the kind of thing that typically comes up in those situations. He says, I watched some of your videos and I pulled back to create attraction and I went, no contact. So if you think about it from this perspective, if she's taking you for granted, if you're trying to get together with dates and she's kind of, she's not really excited about it, you got to match and mirror that behavior. Because guys get too overzealous and the woman backs away and they think the illusion of action, like I discussed in my book, I got to do more. I got to say more. I got to call her more. I got to make sure she really super duper knows that I like her. Like if you ask most female girlfriends of yours, they'll typically say something along the lines of, oh yeah, you need to let her know how you really feel, that you really like her. And the guys go and do that, and what happens? They get the opposite result, even though a woman was the one giving them advice. Because logically, it sounds legit. But at the end of the day, women care about how they feel about you. They don't really give a shit about how you feel about them, especially in the beginning. He says, during this time, I read your book twice, and after 2 weeks, I received a text from her saying, hi. I took my, notice he's matching and mirroring her now. He says, I took my time to respond and chatted a bit, and then arranged a date. She texted me a few hours before we were due to meet saying she had a blood test this morning and her arm was hurting, and she'd try her best to make it for the date tonight. So in other words, that's her excuse. If I get a better offer from a more confident guy, I'm going to probably go off with and hang out with him and not hang out with you. And so because what she's basically communicating is, I'm thinking about making you a low priority and a backup. And because obviously he read the book a couple times, he recognized what she was doing. She's basically communicating to him is that I don't really value what you're bringing to the table very much. And his response, which I'll get to in a second, let's read that now. He says, I told her if she wasn't sure she could make it, we should just do it another time. And she replied, okay. At this point, I was really pissed off and I just thought, you can go get fucked, and I went no contact again. So with that, because remember, this is a woman he had screwed up with. She'd already kind of formed an impression of him that he just wasn't that great of a guy, and she could always probably call and tell him, hey, let's get together. And so because has a date and now she's canceling it, in other words, she's not like, oh no, because if a woman really likes you and wants to see what, she's just kind of testing you to see what you're made of, and you do the withdrawal, she was like, oh no, I still want to keep the date. But obviously in this case, her interest was low. And so therefore, she's like, okay, no big deal. And so notice what he does next. So in other words, he gains some of his respect back because he's like, I'm not just going to sit around and wait for you to maybe go on a date with me. It's like, why would I go hang out and spend money on a girl that's kind of like, yeah, I think my elbows hurt and I might just pass on a date, but I'll let you know at the last minute because I don't value your time at all. It's basically what she's communicating. He's like, no, sweetheart, my time's valuable. He's not saying this, but he's communicating in a respectful manner, but also letting her know that, if you can't make it, I'm gonna do something else. He says, at this point, I was really pissed off, and he went no contact again. And he said, I read your book a few more times, and then she texted a few more times saying hi. So in this case, she basically canceled a date for a bullshit reason and blew him off. So, like I talk about in 7 Principles to Get an Ex Back, it's like, why would you really be in much of a rush to try to make another date with a girl who had a date, who had the opportunity to spend time with you, and was like, eh. So instead, he's like, what does the 7 Principles Get an X back say? If she's canceled a date, he's like, I'm not going to bring it up again. Unless she says, I want to get together, it's like, I'm not going to ask her out. I don't care if she keeps texting me. In other words, it forces her to show more effort, especially if he doesn't bring up getting together again. So notice what he said, and this is like right out of the book. He says, I kept the conversation short, and she said I was busy, and to keep in touch. And so he says after she made contact a few more times, she messaged to say that she missed me and really wanted to see me. So what happened is she continued to text him, because typically women have 2 or 3, or rather, especially if they're young and beautiful, they got 2 or 3 other dudes, male orbiters, they can go out with at any particular time. And therefore, he's not asking her to get together anymore. Now, why would he do that? He either lost interest, he's bored, or maybe he's fucking somebody else. And so she's expecting that when she reaches out, he's going to try to make a date right away. Well, they had a date set, and she basically fucking blew him off like he was nothing. And so, therefore, what's he doing? He's mirroring this behavior back to her. And therefore, he's not going to ask her for a date because she already had the opportunity to get the greatest gift he could give anybody, which is a gift of his time. And her response was, eh. So in other words, she's going to have to really super be interested. In other words, really go out of her way to let him know that she wants to spend time with him. I mean, think about it. Do you really want to go out with a girl or ask a girl out that blew you off at the last minute, and she's like, eh, and she keeps texting you? It's like, hey, she had the opportunity and she fucking blew it. So she's got to make an extra effort. So she made contact a few more times, messaged to say she missed me, and notice what she says next, and really wanted to see me. Isn't that interesting how that works? After a couple of weeks, breaks a date, blows him off. He doesn't do anything. He stops moving forward, completely forgets about her in essence, and then she keeps reaching out, and now he's not even trying to set a date. It's almost like he's not interested. And obviously in her mind, it's like, why is he not asking me out? The other guys that she's talking to are probably asking her out. So now she's like, I really want to see you. So now she's bringing it up. She's bringing up getting together again. He says, so we arranged a date. She didn't flake this time, haha, he says. Isn't that interesting? He communicated his value. In other words, he, in essence, without saying it in so many words, communicated on some level that he really didn't give a fuck anymore. He's nice. He's respectful. He's happy to talk to her. But he ain't even trying to get together. Why? Because she already wasted his fucking time once before. So you're only going to want to go out with somebody who's really is like, hell yeah, I'd love to go out with you. In this case, she's bringing it up. And when they're bringing it up like this, you don't have to worry about getting rejected. She's in essence asking you out. In other words, she's putting herself into your orbit and saying, hey, I'd like to see you. He says, so we went out for dinner, and she constantly tested just like you talk about in your book. And at one point, when we'd left the restaurant, she said, stop vaping. You've had enough tonight. My response was, shut up. I do what I want. And then she got really angry and started shouting at me, but I knew it was a test. Listen, I love what he does here. He says, so I blew vape in her face. He says, when I did this, she went back to being sweet and laughed and said, I'm loving all this confidence. So as she huffed, she puffed, I'll blow your house down. And he was like, and blew a bunch of smoke in her face. Total masculine, in a playful, funny way. He's just not diminished by her. He says, I took her back to my place that night, and the rest is history. Isn't that an amazing turn of events? A subtle little difference in how you show up and how you carry yourself, and you let her know that you're just simply not going to be jerked around. He says, thanks for your work, Corey. You're changing lives, brother. Doesn't matter what age, religion, ethnicity, your shit works. Keep it up, bro. You changed my life. Well, congratulations, dude, on your success. And you're a good student. You read the book. You were prepared. You prepared yourself ahead of time. And when the girl reached out, you knew exactly what to do. and she simply opened the door at the end there, and all you had to do was walk through it. So if you're in a situation that you don't know what to do, maybe your emotions are getting the best of you, or you just like to get my opinion on things, go to my website, understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.